For now.
Big ups to Braylon, by the way. Michigan basketball, Chris, you've been a very, how do I say this?
A big fan, right? I just been by this team's side the whole way,
supporting
them on their journey to the tournament later.
I can dig up clips
I don't know
from the
what
last
you're
2
talking
years
about, Danny.
of Chris Cichon.
We don't have that footage on tape, so.
Laying into John Beilein in the Michigan basketball program. Chris,
bottom line is,
3-1 in the Big Ten, back in the rankings. Last year they only had 5.
Yeah.
This team is clearly going in the right direction. Have they officially won you over?
No, I'm still skeptical because here's the thing. I was in Florida for the past month or so, okay, and I didn't get to see those games. The one game I did saw was that L against Wisconsin on ESPN. So my apologies to the basketball team, but that's the last picture I have in my mind. But they did win 3 in a row, although it was against the weaker foes in the Big Ten. This week they got Illinois on the road.
Illinois was a good win. Illinois was a team that had won 7 straight.
They
beat Purdue. They'd
Chicago.
beaten Missouri. To get that win at home against a tough team, they were down at halftime too. Yeah. Falling behind, going 0-2 to start the Big Ten with both games at home would have been disastrous for this team. And then to pull out that win, as badly as they played, to pull out that win against Indiana was very necessary. Yeah. And then to rebound, obviously, over Iowa.
I will say, Danny, I am pleased with the way the team is playing. I'll put that on the record. They really do look good. But in the big scheme of things, what does it all matter if they're not going to do it all? And to me, they're not playing like they can do it all. They don't have the bigs necessary. Deshaun Sims, first of all, he's not that big.
Chris,
second of all, where's Zach Gibson? Where's the freshman Cronin? Where's these other big guys that we need down low in order to do anything?
No, they are missing pieces. But this is a basketball team that's playing good basketball. They're moving in the right direction. Laval Lucas-Perry comes in averaging double figures. They have a third scorer now. And Kelvin Grady's assist-to-turnover ratio right now is 4-1.
Really?
That's damn good from Kelvin Grady. If you were in the NBA right now, he'd be second in the league in assist-to-turnover ratio behind Jose Calderon. I looked that up. Find that to be
You just wanted to say Calderon.
Slightly interesting.
Calderon. Moving on, right? We'll keep it Michigan.
Calderon.
From the hardwood to the ice. And, you know, Danny, Yost Ice Arena has been around, I don't know, 100 years or so. And, you know.
Can I just interrupt you and say Calderon one more time? Just for fun. Continue.
Whatever you want, Danny. You're a host, too, here. Yost Ice Arena, if folks around Ann Arbor don't know, well, you know, the building started to fall apart last week, and that was kind of bad because they did have a weekend series at home against Miami that they did wind up sweeping, which is good news. But the Friday game was postponed to Sunday. Part of the structure, I actually live across the street, and I heard the structure started falling down in the middle of the day. I believe it was on Tuesday last week, and it just made the loudest noise, shook the whole foundation of State Street there. But good news is Yost is okay. It's not completely falling apart.
Yost is starting to fall apart, and the Michigan hockey team appears to be moving in the other direction.
Getting a lot better, right?
So it's a nice little...
They just won the GLI over break. I heard that while I was gone.
Chris, a few weeks ago we hosted this show. I think it was in November, and you and I talked about the Michigan hockey team is 9-7, and we questioned just complete lack of consistency, flip-flopping goalies. One game they'd have an offensive outburst, the next game they'd be shut out, and we were wondering, 3 times they followed up a 5-goal performance with a shutout.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, what's going on with this hockey team? Since then, okay, they've obviously built their record from 9-17, 6 in a row, 9-7 to 15-7, and in that time they've outscored opponents 30-6.
Wow.
Drubbings.
That's really good. Plus, they're back to number 6 in the country, finally getting back up there, and
slaughtering Michigan State, slaughtering the GLI,
big wins. Yeah.
and Miami of Ohio, a team that swept them in Oxford earlier this year. To just have them come into Yost and beat them down the way they beat them down, with Hogan just playing out of his mind right now, standing on his head in goal.
I think finally they started to get a little bit more healthy. They finally got the pieces together and gelling, and now you're starting to see the product. Series home and away against Bowling Green this weekend, so that should be a good one there.
Bowling Green is always one of those teams that seems to give Michigan fits. One year Bowling Green had like 4 wins in the CCHA, and one of them was against the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
So
seems to happen year to year.
Go figure.
Danny, we're going to finish up Hot Topics by talking a little bit of Florida Gators. Chomp. This is all I saw the past 3 weeks.
Funny
it's pretty annoying.
Many of you may not know, I grew up in Tallahassee, of course, so I am a Florida State Seminoles fan, where we hate the Gators about as much as Michigan faithful hate the Buckeyes. But if we're going to talk about the Florida Gators, Chris, they're not as good as ever. 2 titles in 3 years. You want to say
a dynasty?
No, it's not a dynasty, Chris. Listen, okay. In order to be a dynasty, you have to win. And sure, they win because they get.
I think they did that.
No, they get computerized into the final game of the season. Okay, Chris, this is the team that this year lost to Ole Miss. Okay, the year before
Ole Miss
that,
is a pretty darn good
team. The year before that, they lost
Bowl
to
champions.
Auburn, LSU, Georgia, and Michigan. Okay, the year before that, they won the national championship. They beat a very, very overmatched Ohio State team. Okay, they lost to Auburn, barely snuck by Tennessee, and were a blocked field goal away from losing at home to South Carolina. So this is not a dynasty. They have not dominated. I don't see any undefeated seasons put up by Urban Meyer's crew. It's great that they can win in January.
If you're going to go by that, though, when was the last dynasty in college football, though, Danny?
Oh, there hasn't been one in a while.
Well, okay, well, if you're going to go by that, because I was going to say that the early to mid-90s Nebraska
Cornhuskers are probably the last thing to
They almost won 3 in a row, basically. I mean, if they didn't lose, and I believe it was the last-second field goal to Florida State in the 93 Fiesta Bowl, I mean, they could have won in 93, 94, 95. Tommy Frazier, best player in college history.
And they slaughtered people those years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're going to talk dynasty, I think that's the last dynasty.
I know the SEC is good football, but Chris, they've lost games. You know, that's
losing games though doesn't make them a dynasty.
That the computer can.
Does losing games automatically take them out of the dynasty consideration?
Yes, it does. Because,
even if they win the title next year?
If it wasn't for some formula that neither you nor I could grasp, we could very easily be talking about Pete Carroll's USC dynasty that easily could have happened if some computer hadn't decided that a loss to Oregon State is somehow worse than a loss to Ole Miss, or that Texas and their loss to Texas Tech is somehow less valuable or more valuable. It's a ridiculous system that somehow rewards early season failure. And the Florida Gators have had consistent early season failure. Thus, they're not a dynasty.
The system.
We're going to take it to a quick commercial break and actually talk more college football right around the corner with Andy Bahena on as our main event guest. Stay tuned.